With a key, unlock the door to your imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sight, a dimension of sound, a dimension of mind. You're moving through a land of both shadows and substance, of things and ideas. You have just crossed over to the FOMO zone. So wouldn't it be nice to have a strategy that never changes, that remains consistent over a very long period of time? Because what I'm going to explain in this video is something that has remained consistent over a long period of time and will do so in the foreseeable future. I don't see this changing anytime soon. And that is because what we're doing here is we're taking advantage of human nature. And human nature is a funny thing because it makes people do crazy things. And I'm sure you've experienced this in your own personal life and in the world, when you look at people and you sort of think, what on earth are you doing? And when you see this within the market, you can exploit this characteristics, but it takes a little bit of a shift in mindset to being the person that falls into this trap consistently to being the person that is actually on the other side. And I actually think that, if you want to be a good trader, you're much more likely to be a decent trader if you understand the human mind, if you understand emotion, than if you actually are a decent mathematician. Lots of people who are clever at maths will say the market's efficient, blah, 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 all of those sort of things. But the fact is, it absolutely is not. And when you have a market that has some form of opinion in it, then this strategy comes to the fore. So let's examine specifically what this strategy is. So the specific human frailty that we're going to talk about in this video is the FOMO factor. And what FOMO stands for is fear of missing out. And this is an ingrained, deep feeling that humans get when they see other people doing certain things. And they find it irresistible in order to join them. It's like, what do you do? Do you stand to one side and watch everybody doing it and feel like a bit of an outsider? Or do you join in with it? The natural human response to this is you join in, because then if you're wrong with everybody else, that's fine. But if you're wrong in isolation, that's a big problem. You look like an outsider, you look like a fool, an idiot, all of those sorts of things. So the FOMO factor sort of exploits this characteristic, because there's, whenever anything begins to happen or something occurs, then people tend to jump on the bandwagon. And the bandwagon effect is prevalent across all markets, across all human behavior, and it's something that's irresistible for people to resist. So the clearest example that I can give you, and I've given or shown examples at Goodwood, at Ascot, at Cheltenham. This has happened so many times, it's unreal. But it's basically when a jockey wins a couple of races or a trainer wins a couple of races, and people start betting on the next race on that basis. So people put 2 and 2 together, make 365.4 to 1. And use their last 2 races as the basis on what they're going to bet on the next race. And that's driven by this case of, well, that's happened. Well, let's project that forward. And typically when you get just even a little bit of backing in the market, people see the backing and that prompts them to back. And then that backing prompts other people to back, and the whole thing snowballs from there. When you're looking at the ladder, it's at the bottom of its traded range, and still the money comes. The money just keeps on pulling that price in. So themes develop over the course of a day. They can have a number of different origins, but basically when you start to pick up on a theme, then your role as a trader is to begin to anticipate how that's going to manifest itself in the next race. But basically when you start to pick up on this type of a theme, then that will allow you to anticipate how that manifests itself in the next race. So that's the sort of first way that the FOMO factor can develop itself and how you can exploit it. But there are other ways that are a little bit more subtle. Now, there is another way that the FOMO factor manifests itself within the market, which you can also exploit. And curiously, this is by going sort of against it. So imagine you turn up to market, you can see that it's been in a long trend, and you're sort of thinking, well, should I join that long trend? Well, the interesting thing is, unless if there's a theme behind it, then you may want to adopt a strategy that opposes it. But how do you oppose something that's in a strong trend? Well, the interesting thing is that if you get, say, for example, an overnight gamble or some steady backing on something, then typically there's a price at which people aren't willing to back it any longer, especially if there's no current theme behind it. So if there's a series of gambles going on, then that qualifies as a theme. But if this is just an isolated runner that starts to steam, or maybe it's drifting dramatically, it can work in both directions, then you may want to look at opposing it on the other side. Or perhaps there's not much time left in the market for you to be able to ride that trend for very long. And if that's the case, and if those things are in place, then I suggest you go against it. To understand the opportunity, if we look at these squiggly lines, this describes beautifully what the opportunity is and how it manifests itself within the market. So what you will find is that when people arrive in the market, they anchor their entry to the market at a particular point. They will look at the price and they will say, and that becomes their anchor point. So if the price starts to come in from that particular point, then people sort of in their mind go, oh, the price is coming in, the price is coming in, I should do something about this. Let's think about whether I need to see some confirmation. And as the price comes down, that confirmation gets stronger to the point at which they press the button. Now at that point, the price starts to head back in the other direction. And I'm sure that you've all seen this because I've experienced it too, how frustrating it is that when you do one thing, the market seems to do the other. And when people complain to me that the market's fixed, or that, you know, it always seems to do the opposite of what they expect, this is what you're seeing. I've been through that experience. Loads of other people will go through it, no doubt, but it's a prevalent trend within the market. So the point at which the person gets involved in the market typically is right at the bottom of that particular trend. And it's at that point that people who are in the market much earlier are deciding to start to get out. So this person will hold on as the price heads back in the other direction. It starts to create a potential loss for them. And at some point, that pain becomes too much. And typically that point is the anchor point that they saw within the market. So they bail their position at that point. Guess what happens at that point? Market comes back in the other direction. So if you're in a market, there's no underlying theme, and it feels like you're a bit too late for a trend to develop or for you to catch a trend, then consider going against it. You will see me doing this on a range of different videos where I catch the market either at the top or the bottom of a trend. And basically I'm sort of exploiting this characteristic. People are thinking about getting in, and all of the smart money was in much earlier. And basically we reach this point of sort of exhaustion where it suddenly becomes lay value, or people who've had large positions start cashing it out. And what I'm trying to do is I'm looking for that heavy backing activity to stop, for the market to sort of wobble and stabilize at that particular point. And then and it will be near the lower end of its traded range. And that's the point at which I get in the market to try and ride it as it goes back out. And I do that for two key reasons. One is that people at a much higher level, when they see the price has stalled, will start closing out their position because they want to maximize their profits. They fear missing out on those profits. And people who are in duff positions, who basically got in too late, will start escaping the loss. They fear a much bigger loss, so they will dump their position there. And very often you'll get a lovely reversal at this particular point within the market. So yeah, it's slightly different from the first example that we looked at, but it relies upon pretty much the same underlying psychological characteristic. So what we're doing in this video is we're understanding human nature. We're understanding the desire not to miss out on something. And typically you would see this in terms of, you know, a price being backed and people following it for no other reason that other people are doing it. It's much easier to be wrong as a group than it is to be wrong as an individual. So people sort of tend to make decisions that push them in that direction. And it could happen in either direction. But typically when you're actively trading, the way that you would really identify this is you want it to be in the market for a long period of time. So you need a decent amount of time for this to happen. You need to be in on it early, but you need to understand what is particularly causing it, or what could be causing it. And then you focus your attention into the middle of the ladder. You can see the price getting pushed around and all of the money getting taken out above or below where the current price is. And that gives you a good indication as to that this is happening within the market. And by trading it for a long period of time, you'll avoid some of the noise that could throw you out of the market. If you get into the market late on, however, you're looking really to oppose it. You're sort of saying, well, this has gone way too far. A corrective is going to set in and I'm going to sit on the other side of that. This is the harder of the two strategies because you're sort of saying, you're all wrong and I'm right. or sort of, you know, what tends to happen is you tend to get a rebound depending upon how strongly that price has come in. And the deeper the price has come in, then the more likely it is that the price will rebound. And the reason that that has to happen is that people will pull it to its true value. It doesn't mean that it will reach it, but it will tend to sort of correct to a decent value as opposed to just continuing a trend under. Something that's got a 50% chance of winning just can't forever steam. It suddenly is not going to have an 80 or 90% chance of winning. That is just not going to happen. There's a natural floor that the market will hit where the price will just go no further. And again, if you draw your attention to the center of the ladder, you'll begin to see that backing activity or that laying activity begin to break down, and it just isn't moving any longer and sort of gets stuck. The volume begins to increase at that particular point in the market. And when it does that, it's okay to begin to oppose it because it almost certainly will not go any further from that particular point. So yeah, we're just looking at basic human nature here, the fear of missing out, but also the fact that that will extend beyond its true value. And when it does, then the corrective will set in. So yeah, a strategy that relies upon human nature is something that is probably never, ever going to change.